Welcome back here to the Devy YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kevin Coleman, and we are back with another edition, another mock draft, but we're doing something a little bit different on this mock. So we're doing a 2025 class mock, 3 rounds for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea of what the Devy value is of the 25 class, because I don't think a lot of people do this. I think we look at the 24 class, we do combined drafts here, we do that stuff, but looking at individual classes and see how they're ranking with each other will help you, especially if you play in Devy and even in Dynasty. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you guys player comps, player values for every pick in the first, second, third round of guys going right now. And one thing that we did on our Patreon podcast is me and Jay Stein talked about it. Like the class that's 2 years out is actually the cheapest to buy first in. Like you can get those guys for pretty cheap. So I'm going to show you that. So if you play Dynasty football, you can stay on this video. You can learn about the class, and then you can also learn about players that you might be able to move if you're rebuilding or something to get that extra value right now. And I think that's an untapped market in terms of dynasty leagues. I think we're always looking 1 year, not 2 years. We're always like, hey, it's just going to last a year, whatever the case may be. But if you believe in your dynasty league is going to last that long, 2-3 years out, those 2 years out picks are really, really cheap to grab right now. And I'll show you that. Go through all the Devy classes too, the 3 rounds here. We're going to look at it. Where's the value at? Who got taken a little bit too higher? Some player spotlights, all of the above. So stay tuned on the channel. Hit the like and subscribe button while the intro is going, and I'll catch you guys on the other side. All right, so we got to throw our guy Crenshaw Judkins up there for after the year that he had. So again, 25 Devy mock draft. We're going to be looking at player values, though, and pick values. So let's get into 101. So the 101 was my pick. I took Drew Aller. To me, when you look at Devy and looking at quarterbacks, they're tough, right? We've kind of done this. If you watch enough videos of mine, I've talked about it. But there's 3 guys right now that I'm willing to take. And when you look at that, it's Caleb Williams, it's Drake May, and it's Drew Aller. Like those are the 3 guys that I'm comfortable drafting. I'll take him at the 101, expecting that leap forward, 6'5", 242. You saw last year a little bit of flashes, 344 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's ready to take that next step. Penn State could also compete for a Big Ten title. As long as Franklin doesn't hold him back, I think that he can. If Drew Aller is allowed to go with the weapons that he has, they have 2 of the best running backs in the Big Ten, and Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton. And we're looking at those guys, and their wide receiver room could step up, right? Caden Saunders, some of these guys we've talked about, Kendra Lambert-Smith. And moving forward, Penn State could do that. That means Aller could definitely take that next step. And if he's the QB1 of the 25 class consensus-wise, he's probably going to be around the 101 in Superflex drafts, right? So just going forward, that's who the first pick is. Now, this second pick shocked me a little bit. Cade Klubnik from Clemson, 6'2", 195 quarterback. Last year came in a little bit, right? They probably should have went to him a little earlier from DJU. Didn't have an amazing end of the year, right? He had a couple bad interceptions, 697 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, does have some rushing upside. I think the big thing with him is I was listening to a podcast today about Clemson's offense. It's going to be better with Garrett Riley. They're learning a new system. They have Will Shipley film off of there. The big question is their wide receiver room, right? So, Bo Collins, Adam Randall, some of these other guys, Antonio Williams can step up, but he did not have anybody healthy in the spring. They were talking about on the podcast, and the 247 sports reporter was talking about this. Like, he has not had really any comfortability with these guys. He has not had any kind of, cohesion with these wide receivers. And how's that going to carry moving forward? And they have 3 guys coming in that are not early enrollees. So over the summer and in that fall is going to be huge for them in an offense that was really struggled, right? So Cade's going to have to take that next step at the 102. I feel like that's kind of a reach. But again, quarterbacks, you're taking a swing for the fences with quarterbacks in this format. I think 102 is a little bit too rich for me based on who's still on the board. But I understand it. I get it if you believe in Cade as a talent. Now, this next guy, Nick Singleton, running back from Penn State, 6 foot 228. He's a big boy, right? And the thing about Singleton too is he can get to the outside and turn the quarter probably better than he runs inside. If he can learn how to run inside, kind of get in the gaps, do those type of things, we could be talking about him even higher, which is crazy because he's already going 103. He had 1,000 yards last year, didn't have a ton of usage, 156 attempts. He's always going to split time with Kaytron Allen, so I don't necessarily think the numbers are going to be bigger unless one of these guys miss time. 12 touchdowns. He does have the kind of pass catching. He has ability, but he hasn't really shown that in high school and in college. Only 11 receptions, not really used that way. But again, I think Singleton is a very, very solid runner. If you have him as the running back 1 in the class, I understand. If you have the next guy that we're going to be talking about, I understand that as well. But this is kind of where those running backs go into. The next guy, Quinshon Judkins, right? 5'11", 220, absolutely popped off last year, 1,500 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns. Basically took Zach Evans' job. Everybody believes that was Zach Evans' job. TCU transfer. It didn't really happen for him. Judkins kind of took it over. It looked like one of the best players in the SEC, to be quite honest with you. And was probably one of the best rushers in the SEC. 104 is probably a steal, to be honest, because he probably should go top 3. I wouldn't even like, but like, whoa, if he went at 102. That's how talented this kid is. Again, with running backs, though, we've seen this value fluctuate, right? We saw Travion Henderson 2 years ago be that 102, 103, and now he's going to 110, 111 in drafts, right? So, like, I understand the risk that's involved there, but a 1,500-yard rusher in the SEC is not something to, like, wow, like, be worried about. Next guy, Branson Robinson. So this is, again, where you start getting those ceiling players. We think Branson's going to take that next step in that offense. He's like a grown man since he's been 12 years old. We've talked about him. 68 attempts, 330 yards. He can maybe take that next step. That Georgia running back room is just stacked again, right? So if Branson's going to take that over, right? Kendall Milton's going to be there. Other guys in that offense have a shot to take that over. I think, he doesn't really have that receiving upside. We haven't really seen that. So from a running standpoint, he's really, really got to take that step if we're talking about fantasy perspective. So at the 105, I think this is a ceiling pick. Don't hate it. I think he could take that next step. But again, this is more of a ceiling play. The 106 is probably where I would have went, or the next guy, 107, Luther Burden. Now, we just did an episode on this channel. Literally, you can go find it yesterday about Luther Burden versus Evan Stewart. If you want a more detailed breakdown, you can go over that. Now, 45 receptions, 375 yards, 6 touchdowns. He looks really good. We comped him to Debo Samuel, especially me and Jay on the Patreon podcast. He has that ability. So, like, when you talk about Luther, he definitely has that in him. Very, very solid wide receiver. Got to take the next step, right? Dominic Levitt not there. Quarterback play is going to be pretty bad. Can he take that next step at that production level? Now, my guy, Evan Stewart, my wide receiver, 5'11", 170. Obviously, a very contrast in size. But again, straight dog, can play, gets up 50-50, catch radius, all the things that you love to see from a wide receiver. 53 catches, 649 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We talked about, hey, didn't necessarily hit the dominator rating that you like, but he was right there. It was close. Weighted dominator rating, he did. He does a lot of good things analytically. You like his hands, those type of things. I think he could take that next step, and he's in a better offense than Luther. 108, Connor Weigman, which, again, quarterbacks at this level, I don't necessarily think I'm going to take this high. I like Connor. He could maybe take that next step up in Pacino's offense out there at Texas A&M. He looked good at times last year. Obviously, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I do like Connor. I obviously had Connor. I think he was my quarterback too last year heading into the season. So when you're looking at that, I do think Connor could take that next step. I just worry about that offense, right? And I don't think at this point I'm willing to take a shot on a quarterback at 108. Always, unless I'm getting that elite tier quarterback at the 101, 102 mark, I'm going to take positional players later. 109 was Kaytron Allen, which I actually really like this pick. I think it's a value pick. I think Kaytron Allen is one of the most slept on running backs at all levels in Devy right now. He's going in the 4th or 5th round, and he went at the 109 in this one. So just to tell you kind of like overall, I think Kaytron Allen is a guy that you should go out and try to acquire right now. If there's anything as a buy low in Devy, that's definitely it. The 110 is Barry Brown, Kentucky wide receiver, 6'1", 166. Again, explosive. 50 receptions, 628 yards, 4 touchdowns. Solid player. I think he could take that next step. This 25 class, we talk about wide receivers, very, very solid group. Really clustered though, right? So Matthew Golden, 111, 38 receptions, 584 yards, 15.4 yards reception, 7 touchdowns. Really solid. He's going into the Big 12 now, right? So we're talking about a big jump in competition. Is he going to do better? I think he can take over for Tank Dell. I think there's a tons of targets there to earn. Be on the lookout for Matthew Golden. He's one of my favorites. And then Antonio Williams, basically a slot guy playing in Clemson, 56 receptions, 604 yards, and 4 touchdowns. You're looking at that as wide receivers. You saw those guys who just go right there, those 5 wide receivers. Very, very talented group. And who's going to separate themselves? I think the question that we have to ask ourselves as we move forward into the season. Now, as far as like where the first are going right now, early 2025 first, you're looking at Tua, Josh Jacobs and Cooper Kupp, right? So, and again, this wouldn't be straight up. You can pair these things and you can kind of maneuver around, but these are what they're valued at. Josh Jacobs is the interesting one to me. Cooper Kupp too, right? If you're sitting there with Cooper Kupp and someone just wants to give you like the 110 this year, and 24 first, maybe you're not getting that. Just go get a 25th first. You just saw the wide receiver talent that's there. There is that ability. I think Josh Jacobs is another interesting one. Are you going to pivot off the running back based on where he's going to be next year, right? Playing on the tag. What is that going to look like going forward? Tua, always a question mark with the health. Now, mids, 25 first, Jordan Love, not a bad pivot. If Jordan Love's like your QB 3 or 4, J.K. Dobbins, DJ Moore. So in that area, you're looking at guys that you could definitely kind of move if you want to for that mid 25 first. And in the late 25 first, Geno Smith could be a good option there if you want to pivot off of him. I know he's getting a lot of love out there in fantasy. Rashad White, Amari Cooper. So you're looking at, hey, what's Rashad White going to be moving forward? Amari Cooper's getting a little older. This is probably the last value you can get for Amari Cooper. So those are where those late first are going right now. As far as the second round, so we're just going to go through all of them. You have Jaden Knott, Devin Brown, McMillan, Trevor Etienne, Oscar Delp, Damian Martinez, Walker Howard. Malik Benson is, again, I think he's eligible for the 24 class. So that's something to know. I think when we talked about it, he said, I don't think he's going to come out this year. So it's something just to kind of watch, just to understand that. CJ Donaldson, West Virginia running back, Caden Saunders from Penn State, Le'Veon Moss from Texas A&M, and then Javonte Barnes at 212. I think that's a really good value. I'm a big fan of Barnes. I think he can really step up in that Oklahoma offense. I know he got a little banged up in spring football, but that's just something to kind of look at. I like McMillan too. I think McMillan might be able to play his way into the first round. They've really talked him up on the podcast I listened to about Arizona. So I dived into some beat writer podcasts and stuff before I did this to kind of give you some insight. They said, hey, he's having the best camp of all. He looks really good, ready to take over for Singer. McMillan's kind of getting slept on in Devy. So that's a guy to kind of look at. And Devin Brown is a big outlier. Like these kind of Ohio State quarterbacks, what are they going to be moving forward? I think that's the question. Like if Brown wins that job, he'll be a first round guy in this, right? So I think that is the biggest question. Jaden Ott going in early in the 201. I don't mind Ott, but he has a lot of competition at Cal now. And they went out and got running backs in the transfer portal. So like to me, like what does that say about Ott for some of these guys? I think that's the biggest one. I think the biggest red flags for me, I think Walker Howard is good. But what is that going to look like? He's in a quarterback battle now. If he doesn't win that again, if Jackson stays again, we want to see our quarterbacks get on that field. Le'Veon Moss, what is he moving forward? Ruben Owens being there, how's that going to look? I think it's going to be a lot of timeshare area there with that running back room. So those are those biggest ones I have questions about. Now, as far as what these guys are going for, 20-25 seconds are kind of going all across the board. Hendon Hooker's out there. If you want to pivot off a Hooker, if you feel like that, if you're not going to be that starter, Elijah Mitchell is out there actually right now as a 25 second kind of value. Tyler Lockett, this is pretty much it for Lockett. I mean, Lockett's one of those guys is that you're probably going to have to pivot off this year unless he's going to probably be a roster clogger, just going to clog your, you're going to go off with him in the sunset. That's just kind of how you're looking at Lockett's value right now. Now, last round here, Jordan Hudson, SMU, Jamarian Miller, Alabama running back, Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Trevante Citizen from Miami, Mason Taylor, LSU, Kobe Prentice, Alabama, Adam Randall, Clemson, DJ Allen, TCU, Isaiah Bond, Alabama, Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State, Squirrel Wright getting in here, Tennessee, and then Richard Reese of Baylor. I think the big thing for me is like Richard Reese, I really like, but he's 175 pounds, right? Squirrel Wright, again, 160 pounds. We're talking about smaller guys. And in Devy, we're looking for NFL assets. And will they be able to be that, right? So this is where you start seeing that third round. It gets a little weeded out. Mason Taylor, I like that pick there. I like Caleb Johnson, but what have Iowa running backs done in the NFL? Jamarian Miller could be that one breakout in this group, and Jordan Hudson. I like both of those guys. I think Jordan Hudson at SMU could really take that next step. We saw Rashee Rice get drafted. If Jordan Hudson can really break out this year and then next year, he'll be early declare, and then we're excited about it, right? Kobe Prentice is the one I'm still standing on in Alabama. If Kobe Prentice can step up in the Alabama room, I think he's going to get that value. You're going to see that. Now, 25 thirds, Bailey Zappi, CEH, if you want to throw, a dart shot there, and then Paris Campbell. If you can kind of do that, I don't hate that, especially with, all the dudes out there in Giants land for Paris Campbell, those guys. But that's the draft. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully, you can go through the draft. You can kind of give you an idea of, where are these guys getting valued at in Devy? Where are this 25 class? Let me know in the comments. Is that too early for Klubnik? Are you concerned like I am, or do you not? You just believe in the talent? Do you think he can be a Heisman hopeful? I know some people kind of do. So let me know what you guys think. So appreciate you guys. We're going to do a little different outro. This is our Patreon promo. If Christian's going to walk you through what we do have for the Patreon. If you think about joining, hit the link below, go there, and we have a ton of good options for you. So appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys next time.
Have you joined the Devy Royale's Patreon? With 3 tiers to cover your Devy, college football, and Dynasty needs, the Devy Royale has a tier for you. Patrons in the day tier or higher get exclusive access to the rankings database, including consensus, combined Devy and Dynasty rankings, each analyst's personal rankings, and separated Devy and Dynasty rankings for every type of fantasy football draft. Patrons in all tiers get access to the incredibly active Discord server, in which our community collectively helps each other win fantasy leagues and has fun in the process. Last but not least, all patrons in the day tier or higher get access to the College Football Manifesto, a more than 300-page document highlighting every Power 5 college football team, Devy players, mock drafts, strategy guides, position battles, and so much more. Head to patreon.com/the Devy Royale to join today.